INFJs, one of the rarest personality types in the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, MBTI, system, are known for their deep emotional intensity, idealism, and a seemingly paradoxical tendency to obsess over unavailable people. This behavior can be perplexing to both the INFJ and those around them, as it often leads to heartache and frustration. So why do INFJs, who value meaningful connections and authenticity, find themselves drawn to people they can't have? In this article, we'll explore the psychological and emotional reasons behind why INFJs tend to obsess over unavailable people. We'll delve into the core traits of the INFJ personality, their desire for deep connection, their complex emotional world, and how these factors contribute to their attraction to those who are emotionally or physically unavailable. By the end, you'll have a clearer understanding of this common INFJ behavior and how to navigate it in a healthier way. The INFJ's deep emotional world. INFJs are known for their deep emotional lives. They feel things intensely and often experience emotions on a level that others may not fully understand. Their introverted intuition, NI, and extroverted feeling, FE, functions make them highly attuned to the emotions of others, which allows them to form profound connections. However, this emotional intensity can also lead INFJs to develop attachments to people who are unavailable, as they often romanticize and idealize relationships. INFJs are naturally introspective and spend a lot of time in their own heads, analyzing their feelings and trying to make sense of their emotions. This introspection can create a rich inner world, but it can also make them vulnerable to fixating on unattainable people. They may believe that if they can just understand or connect with the other person on a deeper level, the relationship will work out. Idealism and the search for perfection. One of the hallmark traits of an INFJ is their idealism. INFJs often have a vision of what they want their relationships to look like, and this vision is usually based on deep emotional and intellectual connections. They crave a perfect relationship where they feel truly understood, seen, and appreciated. Unfortunately, this idealism can set them up for disappointment when the reality of relationships doesn't match their expectations. Unavailable people often seem to embody the qualities that INFJs are searching for, but because these relationships are not grounded in reality, they remain unattainable. This dynamic allows INFJs to hold on to the fantasy of the perfect relationship without having to confront the imperfections that come with real, available partners. The unattainable person becomes a projection of the INFJ's ideals, which only intensifies their obsession. Surface-level relationships don't satisfy them, and they're constantly searching for someone who understands them on a profound level. This desire can lead them to pursue unavailable people, as they often believe that these individuals hold the key to the deep connection they crave. However, this can create a vicious cycle. They may interpret the distance or emotional unavailability as a challenge rather than a red flag, leading them to invest even more energy into the relationship. Emotional rescue complex. The INFJ's tendency to want to save others. INFJs have a strong sense of empathy and a deep desire to help others. This can sometimes manifest as an emotional rescue complex, where the INFJ feels compelled to save or heal those who are emotionally wounded or unavailable. They may be drawn to people who are going through difficult times, believing that their love and support can make a difference. Unfortunately, this can lead to unbalanced relationships where the INFJ invests a lot of emotional energy into someone who isn't capable of reciprocating. The unavailable person may even become a project for the INFJ, who believes that if they can just help them overcome their issues, the relationship will flourish. At their core, INFJs fear rejection and vulnerability. They have a deep need to be understood and accepted, but they also fear being hurt. In a strange way, this protects them from the risk of being rejected by someone who is truly available. They can maintain the illusion of a perfect connection without ever having to fully open themselves up to the risks and challenges of a real relationship. It's a form of emotional self-protection, even though it ultimately leads to frustration and unfulfillment. The appeal of mystery and complexity. The allure of someone who is emotionally distant or hard to understand taps into the INFJ's natural curiosity and desire to unravel the complexities of human nature. INFJs are not content with superficial interactions. They crave deep, meaningful connections and often feel disconnected in relationships that lack emotional substance. When someone is emotionally unavailable or mysterious, it creates an irresistible challenge for the INFJ. They want to dig beneath the surface to uncover the person's true thoughts, emotions, and motives. It's almost like a puzzle for them. Each interaction feels like a clue to understanding the deeper essence of the person. INFJs view relationships as an opportunity for profound emotional and spiritual growth. The more elusive or emotionally distant someone is, the more likely the INFJ is to assign meaning to the relationship. They believe that understanding this complex individual will lead to personal transformation or insight. Emotional unavailability is often seen by INFJs as a challenge rather than a red flag. Instead of recognizing the emotional distance as a sign of incompatibility, INFJs may interpret it as an intriguing mystery to solve. This mindset can lead to obsessive tendencies, as they focus more on trying to fix or heal the other person than on assessing whether the relationship is healthy for them. The fixer mentality. INFJs are natural healers and counselors, often taking on the emotional burdens of others in the hope of helping them. When faced with someone who is emotionally unavailable, INFJs may believe they can fix the person or help them overcome their emotional barriers. This can lead to a cycle of obsessive behaviors, as the INFJ becomes increasingly invested in trying to reach someone who may not be capable of opening up. Projecting potential. INFJs often project their own desires for emotional connection onto unavailable people, imagining what the relationship could be if only the other person would open up. This tendency to idealize the potential of a relationship keeps them hooked, even when reality doesn't support their hopes. INFJs are naturally introspective and complex individuals, and they seek out others who reflect this same depth. This romanticized view of the emotionally unavailable person keeps the INFJ hooked, as they believe that they are uniquely capable of understanding and connecting with them in ways others cannot. INFJs rely heavily on their introverted intuition, (NI), which allows them to make connections between seemingly unrelated pieces of information. When dealing with someone who is mysterious or emotionally unavailable, INFJs may use their intuition to fill in the gaps in their understanding. Instead of accepting that the person is simply not emotionally available, INFJs might build elaborate narratives around why the person behaves the way they do. The INFJ's intuitive mind may construct a complex story about the unavailable person, seeing emotional unavailability as a result of past trauma, fear of vulnerability, or other hidden factors. This narrative allows the INFJ to justify the person's behavior and remain emotionally invested, even when the relationship is not reciprocal. The danger for INFJs is that their intuitive insights, while often accurate, can sometimes lead them away from reality. Instead of accepting that the unavailable person is not ready or willing to engage in a relationship, the INFJ may become fixated on trying to uncover the truth behind the person's emotional walls. This can lead to an unhealthy attachment where the INFJ is more focused on solving the mystery than on addressing their own needs. While the allure of mystery and complexity can be exciting for INFJs, it can also be a trap that keeps them stuck in unfulfilling relationships. To break free from this pattern, INFJs need to recognize that emotional depth and availability are not mutually exclusive. A truly fulfilling relationship requires both emotional complexity and openness. INFJs don't have to sacrifice their love for complexity to find healthy relationships. There are emotionally available people who possess the depth and intellectual stimulation that INFJs crave. Accepting that some people are simply not ready for the kind of deep connection that INFJs seek can help them move on and avoid becoming obsessed with emotionally distant individuals. True connection doesn't require emotional walls or distance to be meaningful, it requires both partners to be willing to engage fully. 7. INFJs struggle with boundaries. However, this empathy can also make it difficult for them to set boundaries, especially when it comes to relationships. INFJs often have a hard time saying no or walking away from people, even when it's clear that the relationship isn't healthy or fulfilling. This lack of boundaries can lead to emotional burnout and frustration, as the INFJ continues to give without receiving in return. The INFJ's fear of settling for less. One of the reasons INFJs may obsess over unavailable people is their fear of settling for less than they deserve. Because they have such high standards for relationships, they may feel that most available partners don't meet their criteria. This can lead them to fixate on unavailable people who seem to embody the qualities they're looking for, even if those qualities are idealized or unrealistic. In some cases, INFJs may prefer to hold on to the fantasy of an unattainable relationship rather than risk being disappointed by a real, available partner. This fear of settling can keep them stuck in a cycle of unfulfilling relationships, as they continue to chase the ideal rather than embracing the imperfections of a real connection. Unconscious attachment to emotional distance. They may have grown up in environments where emotional intimacy was scarce, leading them to associate love with unavailability. As adults, they may find themselves drawn to relationships that mirror this dynamic, even though it causes them pain. The emotional distance of an unavailable person can feel familiar to the INFJ, even if it's unhealthy. They may believe that if they can just break through the other person's barriers, they'll finally experience the love and connection they've been craving. Unfortunately, this pattern often leads to heartache, as the unavailable person is unlikely to change. How INFJs can break the cycle. Breaking the cycle of obsessing over unavailable people can be particularly difficult for INFJs, given the depth of their emotional world and their tendency to idealize relationships. However, it's essential for their emotional well-being and for building healthier, more fulfilling relationships. Here are some key strategies that INFJs can implement to break free from this pattern and develop more balanced relationship dynamics. The first and most crucial step to breaking this unhealthy cycle is self-awareness. To counteract this, INFJs need to become more mindful of their emotions, triggers, and recurring relationship patterns. Journaling can be an incredibly useful tool for INFJs to reflect on their thoughts and feelings. Meditation or mindfulness practices can also help INFJs become more in tune with their emotional triggers. Being aware of when they're idealizing someone or slipping into unhealthy obsession is the first step to course correcting. INFJs often struggle with boundaries due to their empathetic nature and desire to please others. They may tolerate emotional distance or unavailability longer than they should because they believe in the potential of the relationship. However, setting and maintaining clear emotional boundaries is crucial for their well-being. INFJs need to determine what they absolutely need in a relationship, such as emotional availability, clear communication, and mutual respect, and refuse to settle for anything less. INFJs often find themselves drawn to unavailable people because it allows them to avoid their own fears of vulnerability and rejection. If the person is unattainable, the INFJ doesn't have to face the risk of being hurt in a real, committed relationship. To break this cycle, INFJs need to work on embracing vulnerability with people who are genuinely available. Opening up to emotionally available people can feel scary for INFJs, but it's necessary for deepening relationships. This means sharing feelings, insecurities, and dreams with someone who is willing to listen and reciprocate. INFJs often feel the need to protect themselves emotionally, but true intimacy requires a certain level of vulnerability. One of the biggest traps INFJs fall into is idealizing potential partners. They create an image in their minds of what the relationship could be, even if the reality doesn't support that vision. This perfectionism keeps them stuck in unattainable relationships, chasing a fantasy rather than engaging in the real world. INFJs should engage in activities that help them recharge and reconnect with themselves, whether it's through creative outlets, spending time in nature, or practicing mindfulness. Regular self-care can help prevent emotional burnout and provide the inner strength needed to avoid toxic relationship patterns. For some INFJs, the pattern of obsessing over unavailable people may be deeply rooted in past trauma or emotional wounds. In these cases, working with a therapist can provide invaluable insight and guidance. Therapy can help INFJs explore the underlying causes of their relationship patterns and offer practical tools for changing them. However, it's important for them to reevaluate their concept of love, especially if it's causing them to pursue unavailable people. INFJs need to understand that healthy love involves mutual respect, emotional availability, and reciprocity, qualities that cannot exist in one-sided or unattainable relationships. INFJs should focus on cultivating relationships that are built on mutual respect, trust, and emotional availability, rather than chasing after unattainable ideals. Learning to appreciate the imperfections and realness of available partners is key to breaking the cycle. Instead of adhering to an idealized or societal vision of what love should look like, INFJs can work on defining love in a way that honors their own emotional needs. This means letting go of unrealistic fantasies and embracing the beauty of authentic, balanced relationships. Breaking unhealthy relationship patterns is much easier when INFJs are surrounded by supportive, grounded individuals who encourage their growth. Surrounding themselves with friends and family who model healthy relationships can help INFJs better recognize when they're falling into old habits. Seek out emotionally available people. INFJs should focus on building relationships with people who are open, supportive, and capable of meeting them where they are emotionally. Seeing examples of healthy relationships can help them break free from their own unhealthy patterns and offer a more realistic perspective on love and connection. I.N.F.J.'s tendency to obsess over unavailable people stems from a combination of their deep emotional intensity, idealism, desire for connection, and fear of vulnerability. While this pattern can be challenging, it's important for INFJs to recognize it and take steps toward healthier relationships. If you're an INFJ or someone who has experienced this pattern, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. Have you noticed a tendency to be drawn to unavailable people? How have you worked through it? Let's discuss.